I think a lot of people, especially able-bodied folks, they always look at me as if somehow I'm a victim, or they say, wow, I can't imagine what that must have been like, or that must have been terrible. And I look right back at them and say, man, I have no idea what you've been through. I can't imagine probably going through what you've been through. Trauma and grief and sorrow is not unique to me and my story. Sure, did I have one horrific day and subsequently a lot of bad days as a result of my injury, but I don't know what you're carrying. I have no idea what you've been through in your lifetime. And so finding that common ground, that common area to where it's not otherized. Wow, man, I can't imagine what you've been through. It's like, no, we have been through. And so golf, again, like spending hours with people, you can find that vulnerability and that softness and connection with people. And I think especially a lot of us men, we're conditioned to think, man, I can't talk about this stuff. I got to pull myself up by the bootstraps and go get after it. It's like, man, once we're able to really connect on that soft space, in that soft space, I think that does wonders for us.
Welcome back to another episode of the Content Clubhouse podcast presented by The First Call with Jordan Thomas, humanitarian, philanthropist, CNN hero, and a phenomenal double amputee golfer. Jordan, yours is a heavy and inspiring story, but before we jump straight into the deep end, which we certainly will, we're recording this the day after the Pebble Beach Pro-Am, Colin Morikawa closing it out yesterday, but I know you've been out there before, and a look at your socials shows that you have hit the famous kind of recovery from the beach left of 18. You did it a lot better than Jacob Bridgman made it look yesterday, albeit from a different spot. Just curious enough to kind of hear that story. What was that like? And I imagine it's hard enough getting down there, normally, not to mention, with two prosthetic legs. Just tell me about that.
Yeah, I mean, I hit the dreaded straight ball there. You lay it down the seawall and hope to hit a little buttercut, but hit a straight one. And you can get lucky there if the tide is low. And ironically, I had to hit it off about 2 feet of seaweed, so it was real spongy underneath. And so I climbed down there and chose to play it out of there.
Yeah, what's kind of, again, having never been there myself, like how steep of a rock face are you having to manage there?
Yeah, I found kind of a pretty good route. I took, there's kind of a grade, it grades down. So you can find your way down there if you're lucky enough to find your ball. But chose to play it and got lucky, made a 5 and got out of there. Very cool.
Very cool. Well, I imagine that had to be just absolutely awesome. And taking a look at your social media and all the golf you've been playing, man, like definitely looks like you've been able to play at some really incredible places as a result of your incredible story too, and the golf game that you've built, in spite of that or even inspired by that. So to kind of educate listeners who may or may not know your story. It's one that you've told countless times, and you do it so much better than I possibly could. So if you would, take us all the way back to 2005 and the moment that changed your life forever.
Yeah, sure. So I was scuba diving with my family in August of 2005, and just a beautiful day. We were going out to scuba dive, and so we made it 7 miles off the coast there in the Atlantic, and just a freak accident. I got into the water and was pushed behind the boat by a really big swale. And my mom put the boat into gear really quickly to try to avoid kind of the boat coming down on my head. And the propeller pulled me in, and instantly I knew what had happened. And I looked down and my fins were gone, and I saw a lot of blood, and I knew I was in trouble from a survival standpoint. And luckily my parents did a great job to keep me alive that day. I'm really lucky to be here. Both my parents are doctors, and it was a 45-minute ride back to shore. So as you can imagine, quite the journey back. But again, just really blessed and lucky and fortunate to be here, to be alive today.
And, this happens right back in 2005. So I think you're kind of like 16 or, in kind of that high school time frame at the time?
Yeah, I was 16 thinking, maybe I'll go play college golf kind of as a kid. First of all, had the idea that I'm invincible. That stuff happens to other people. It doesn't happen to us, right? Had that. Kind of on this trajectory, go play college golf maybe, and I never had the talent to play mini tour stuff or turn pro, but that aspiration of playing kind of college golf and taking that route. And so obviously my life changed drastically as a 16-year-old, and then kind of pivoted and I look back and that's the kind of singular defining moment in my life. And I think of where I am today, and you couldn't pay me enough money to go back and change it, because it has afforded me opportunities to find my life's purpose, to do what I think I'm meant to do on this earth. Tremendous amount of gratitude, and making a double just doesn't sting quite as bad.
I'm sure. So you talk about that purpose, and honestly had this a little, as something I wanted to ask about a little further into the episode, but now I think is a great time. So, immediately after your accident, you started the Jordan Thomas Foundation. You've described, again, as you just kind of did there, but to quote a previous interview from you, as losing your legs but finding your purpose. What is that purpose, and what is the mission of your foundation?
Yeah, and so, like I said, I had never been exposed to this before. I was this able-bodied kid that was an athlete that was going about my life. And so when I learned about the reality that families face and the struggles they have with accessing prosthetic devices for their kids, I recognized that I was from a place of privilege and would never have to worry about getting the best prosthetics possible. And so I started the foundation there in the hospital a couple of days after my accident. And what we do is we provide prosthetic devices to kids until they're 18 years old. And the reality is so I play golf in a completely different set of legs that are specifically designed for golf. And so it's not a thing where one prosthetic works for everything. And so we have specific devices for specific activities. And so kids are never given access to that. They're deemed to not be medically necessary by the insurance companies, which is, I can't imagine anything more medically necessary than giving a kid the device they need to run and play and walk and be a part of life. So that's a lot of what we do at the foundation is we advocate. We're a thorn in the side of big insurance, which is wonderful, and a role that I take on gladly. And so we provide prosthetics, mental health resources, scholarships, everything we can to support kids living with limb loss.
So, as I've also heard you describe previously too, as difficult as it was to heal physically, relearning to walk, much less to play golf again. You've described also the unseen wounds as being in many ways more painful and actually more dangerous than the physical ones. As part of the foundation and the work you're trying to do, just how has that informed the mission and the purpose that you have? What does kind of the mental and emotional side of things look like, and how did you overcome that?
Sure. So, for me, a lot of people put a lot of attention towards, as I did, getting back physically to doing the things that I love to do. That was relatively, I wouldn't say easy, but in comparison, like you said, a lot easier than overcoming that emotional trauma. I wasn't equipped, nor do I think anyone is, to experience that level of trauma, especially at such a young age. And so my personal experience informed what we were doing at the foundation about supporting not just the physical wounds, but those invisible wounds. A lot of people think, oh, wow, he's back to doing what he loves to do physically. He must be okay. The reality was I wasn't. I had a lot of pain, a lot of grief, a lot of sorrow, a lot of anger. And so for us, it's like, how do we support our kiddos? We now have 205 kids that we support full-time until they're adults. How do we support them more holistically to help them along their path and make it just a little bit easier?
And what does that look like, in practice, both for yourself and for these kids? Like, what kind of role does sports like golf or other activities play in kind of helping, these kids and yourself recover internally?
The biggest thing and what we see the most with the foundation, and then also through my own, again, being informed from my own personal experience, is community support from people that have been down this path before. There's so much uncertainty and so much unknown. So the more I can connect people with other folks that have their own lived experience with this, to say, hey, this is what to expect. This is what you might go through. This is what you might encounter, and we'll help support you through that, is the name of the game when it comes to being introduced and new to the limb loss community. And so, and another huge part, golf for me, my biggest passion, was a huge part of my recovery process. Before I even got my legs again, I would have folks take me out without my prosthetics. I'd go in my wheelchair, hop in a golf cart, and just drive the golf course. Because for many of us, that's a really safe space for us that we know that's like a really, just a safe space. And it wasn't a hospital, it wasn't a doctor's office. And so finding that passion again, being back immersed and involved in that, and that knowing that I will get back here, it's going to take a lot of work. But yeah, dedicating myself to that passion was another, huge part of my own recovery, and still is to this day.
And you're also an incredible golfer, aside from, totally aside from your injury. I mean, you carry a plus handicap, which is already like the 1% of the 1% of golfers there. But also you've competed at a very high level, qualified for state amateurs. You, of course, have played in and won your category previously in the U.S. Adaptive Open. It's interesting. One of the most recent interviews we did was with Max Togasala. Obviously a very different injury, but in many of the same ways, a similar kind of path to recovery through golf. And he talked about like what it meant to him to be able to slowly but surely get back on the golf course. I'm just curious, like, what you talk about the role that it played in your recovery. What were those kind of early days? You mentioned just riding around the golf course, just getting the feeling of just being back out there. What was it like to try to relearn how to play, I guess, especially coming from your perspective as someone that you talked about maybe not having mini tour talent, but like playing college golf, like I imagine that had to be even more complex than people might think coming from your place of having been so good previously. I don't know if I'm doing a good job of asking that question, but like, what was it like to try to relearn and knowing that I was so good and I want to be that good again?
Yeah, I think it was a tough adjustment, but it was fun to watch the progress that I was making. I made progress pretty quickly. Did I have the talent to probably play in college? Absolutely. The reality is I don't today, especially love competitive golf because I don't play golf to compete, to win, to get medals. Like, yes, I have USGA medal. So sick. It's really, really cool to have that on the trophy case. But I play golf for the community. I play golf so that me and you, Nate, can go out for 4 hours, hopefully 4 hours, play golf, spend time together. I get to learn about you, you get to learn about me, and we get to be in this battle together against the golf course. And that's why I play golf. I don't play golf to compete. Sure, do I want to be number one in the world again as a double amputee? Absolutely. Do I like being number two in the world as a double amputee? Absolutely not. Do I work my ass off to get back to that? Yes. So golf is just, man, it is just a thing that has given me so many gifts. It's afforded me the opportunity to meet amazing people, to go to amazing places in the world. So I have that perspective today of why I played this game. And I play this game to tell the story of the foundation, to tell my story, and to connect with people that I really care about.
And that's such a huge part, I think, of why golf is just this singular sport, right? Or a game. Like, it is a sport, but I almost like the idea of calling it a game because to the same point that you just made, right? Like, it's so much more than that competitive side. And I think calling it a game kind of lends more to the idea of like, this is something that people can enjoy on a much deeper level than just competing in the same way that like football or, whatever sports you may watch prime time on TV. So, I was talking with Kyle Porter about this idea of golf as a lens or as a means for human connection and these other types of things. I struggle to think of a sport or a game that better exemplifies this idea that you've mentioned, that I've read you talk about before, which is that one of the things your injury taught you was, hey, listen, we're all, like, I may have lost my legs, or you may have lost your arm, or you may be dealing with something internal, but ultimately we all have these disabilities or wounds. Some of them are just more visible than others. I'd love to hear you kind of expound upon that and how maybe that you've observed that actually golf and that connection really lends itself to almost expressing and kind of feeling that idea, especially at something like the U.S. Adaptive Open, where you are literally playing alongside people, where who knows what they've gone through, or other able-bodied people. But at the same day, if you're in between the lines, it's you two and 18 holes, and that's the same for everybody.
Yeah, totally. I think that's the thing. I think a lot of people, especially able-bodied folks, they always look at me as if somehow I'm a victim, or they say, wow, I can't imagine what that must have been like, or man, that must have been terrible. And I look right back at them and say, man, I have no idea what you've been through. I can't imagine probably going through what you've been through. Trauma and grief and sorrow is not unique to me and my story. Sure, did I have one horrific day and subsequently a lot of bad days as a result of my injury, but I don't know what you're carrying. I have no idea what you've been through in your lifetime. And so finding that common ground, that common area to where it's not otherized. Wow, man, I can't imagine what you've been through. It's like, no, we have been through. And so golf, again, like spending hours with people, you can find that vulnerability and that softness and connection with people. Because I think when we have the opportunity to share those depths of ourselves that we're not always so open to share. The pain, the sorrow, the grief, the sadness, whatever it may be. And I think it's, especially a lot of us men, we're conditioned to think, man, I can't talk about this stuff. I got to pull myself up by the bootstraps and go get after it. It's like, man, once we're able to really connect on that soft space, in that soft space, I think that does wonders for us psychologically, developmentally, and in true relationship with people is to be seen, right? Intimacy is, I have the opportunity to see within you and vice versa. And in that, that's where we find real connection and meaning and purpose in life, I think.
And just how has, again, just for the sake of ostensibly this is a golf podcast, but I think the bigger picture, right, the more important thing to take from your experience and generally the human experience is what golf allows you to see or what it allows you to do that is more important than the game itself. Like, in what ways have you seen that ability to connect with people, on the golf course or through the game, be that at the US Adaptive Open or through, I know you, I believe you host events as part of your foundation on the golf course. Would just love to hear any kind of personal stories from the way you've seen these ideas, these beliefs, this healing take place kind of in and around the game.
Yeah, it's amazing. Like within the foundation, right? I mean, hosting a charitable event, we play in tons and tons of these. I'm sure you do, like charitable fundraisers. Really, and it's a platform to expose people that have the resources, have the access to what it is that we do. So in many ways, golf for me is just a platform to say, hey, here's what we do as an organization. I'm going to have you meet these kids. And if it doesn't have an impression upon you, I'll be stunned. And so it's a platform by which I get to fulfill my real purpose, which is to be of service to these kids and families living with limb loss. I play in the adaptive every year, and I'm always kind of the token inspiration story, right? You see me hitting balls with shorts on and people turn around and go, wow, what is that? This kid's a flusher. Man, you go to the Adaptive US Open and it is, stunning. Like Max, I watch Max play and dude, I'm like, this kid, it's unbelievable. So the USGA taking the initiative, taking the step to include adaptive as another championship in sort of their arsenal is such an amazing thing. And I think they deserve a lot of credit for having backed us and believed in us and providing us a platform to connect and inspire. It's just an amazing event that really I leave there. It's hard. It's this really interesting thing as a competitive golfer, trying to find that space of not getting caught up in like the awe and inspiration of it. And like also trying to kind of keep your head in the grindstone. I've struggled with that a lot. Because again, I'm like a hype guy. I'm like there to support these people and to be a cheerleader. I'm also there to try to win something. And so it's this really kind of in between weird. I think it's probably one of the hardest championships to win, the USGA. First of all, we paid, between us and the fence post, it's like a 6-hour round. So it's like a grind out there. I think it's a really hard one to win. But Kip, man, I don't know if you know Kip Popper, but he's found the formula and he just kicks everybody's head in. So it's an amazing event. And I'm really, really lucky to even blessed to be a part of it.
It's funny you said about the kind of the juxtaposition between the competitive golf and just being like so truly thrilled and happy to be there and inspired by everyone. Like Max said similarly, like his first, I think that was one of his first competitive events after his injury. And he, was coming from high school golf, and he told a story of being like, at first being like, why is like I want to talk to you, but like quit, like I'm trying to focus, like I'm trying to lock in. And he also like realized like, yeah, like it's about much more than winning the medal, but at the same time, taking it very seriously, because at the end of the day, as you say, the A prize at the end, I would not call it the prize, but A prize at the end is a USGA kind of medal on the line, which is just cool. It's got to be. I bet that there's no other way to experience that same feeling in a competitive golf space. I just imagine that's one of a kind.
Yeah, it is. It's unique. And again, like we said, I certainly wasn't on a trajectory before my accident to ever have the opportunity to be announced on the first tee at a USGA event and to win a medal, a USGA medal. They don't hand those out to everybody. But, as a result of my accident, I was then afforded that opportunity to do that and to live that and experience that. What a gift, man. What a gift. I wasn't going to go win the U.S. Open at Oakmont. I wasn't going to go win the U.S. Am. But to be able to do it, it's incredible. And, I'm not there. Yes, I'm there to compete, like we said. But, man, it's just such an awesome, like, your soul is on fire after you leave that event.
Well, I want to talk about kind of what you've got going on in the content space as of late. Again, you post some incredible stuff on social media. Anybody not following you already absolutely should at PressOnJT. But tell me about Lunch Pail Golf. I see that great logo, cool videos you guys are kind of doing, hitting stingers off the lunchbox. Would just love to hear kind of what's that about, and what's kind of your goal outside of, obviously you're trying to produce awareness for your foundation and your story, but what kind of led you to content, and where are you kind of looking to go in that space?
Yeah, I mean, it's just, it really has just been a really fun thing that I've been doing, is creating this golf content. Everybody's kind of obviously throwing their hat in the ring on the golf content space. And I think the goal with Lunch Pail Golf is, first of all, it's for the grinders, man. It's for the guys that it's not necessarily pretty. They love the game, they love the community, and they want to be a part of that. And so I think for me, it's the intersectionality between some pretty good golf. I'm a +2 index, so I think that kind of puts us in a unique space to hit some good golf shots and to play some good holes, and I have the opportunity to play in some really beautiful places. But then I think most importantly, like you said, it's to draw attention to the foundation. So kind of that intersectionality between some good golf, some inspiration, the story itself is pretty powerful, and then ultimately those social impact. How can we as a community come together and benefit these kids that we support at JTF? And so the goal with it is to just grow awareness around adaptive golf, around my story, and then ultimately the kids that we support at JTF. And so we'll kind of do some more longer format stuff eventually, and we'll gamble, but the losers got to make a contribution to the organization that the winner chooses. And so I don't think anybody's doing that. I think there's plenty of guys in the space that are, chugging some seltzers and going about, shooting 85. That's cool. But that's kind of not what we're about. We're about just kind of social impact and sharing the story and the message of what we do.
That's very cool. So what's kind of the, and if you're just figuring all this out, even better, but what's kind of what's an example of, you talked about some long form content. What are kind of some things that if you were to say, yep, here's why you need to check out Lunch Pail Golf, what can viewers maybe expect to kind of see coming up?
Yeah, I hope that they'll see some really good golf shots. I hope they'll see some funny content. I mean, there's so many opportunities when you wash your legs to have some pretty funny stuff. We just did one that was like a cart path only thing, but I'm wearing pants and the ranger is just yelling at me. Eventually I have tearaway pants. I tear them away and say, hey, well, here we go. So there's a lot of funny stuff. It's kind of tongue in cheek. It's not uber serious. But yeah, ultimately I think there's gonna be some long format stuff with some great athletes or some thought leaders or other content creators, where you kind of get some of that vibe, some of that juice. I think it's funny, it's inspirational, it's just kind of good content, I think. But we'll see.
For sure. Kind of to that end, I had a question, and in hearing you kind of mention the funnier side makes me feel a little bit better about asking it. But I was curious because you said you're a +2, right? So being that good at golf, I imagine everything you wear, from what clubs are in the bag, all equipment, all kinds of stuff is intentional, right? Because if you take the game seriously to be that good, you're have reasons for wearing or playing what you're wearing. I'm curious about your choice in golf shoes and just what goes into that. Because again, I imagine there are very different reasons that maybe you might like a shoe versus what I might, if it's performance based or if it's just, hey, it looks cool, whatever. Just totally one of the random thoughts I had. So would love to hear how that works for you.
That's so funny. Well, I am a Titleist Acushnet ambassador, so I'm obligated to wear FJs, but they're the best in the game. They're sick. I think those old school all white Supremes or those old school FJs are some of the sickest. But for me, it's all about lightweight. I just want it to be as light as possible. What's interesting is I'm thinking about going to a little metal spike. I slip a lot, so I'm thinking about kicking in a little metal spike, so that could be controversial. But yeah, it's all about lightweight performance, and luckily FJ's got the best in the game, so that's why I stick with those guys.
Yeah, I mean, I can see the content already. You've got the metal spikes on, and you crunching, and the golf pro's like, hey, no metal spikes allowed, and then you pull up the pants leg, and you're like, come on, buddy, what are we doing here? So.
But low-key secondary benefit, I think I'll say it, the best sound in all of golf is a metal spike on a cart path. That is undefeated. But what's interesting, obviously as a double amputee, I can be as tall as I want. So I've got an extra inch in my golf legs. so I can just get a little more leverage, a little more width, and hit some bombs out there.
That's very cool. So you also mentioned, while we're just in the nitty-gritty details of it, you mentioned that you have different legs for golf. What is different about them versus the kind of everyday ones?
Yeah, so I've got I have a rotator in my left leg, so I can get through the golf ball a bit cleaner, a bit easier. So that's probably the biggest change. And then I have a different set of feet that move a little bit better for the uneven lies. For us as amputees, it's all about energy in and energy out. We want as much energy out as possible, but along with that comes a stiffness, right? And so my regular legs aren't as good on the uneven surfaces. So I've got an amazing foot, 2 amazing feet right now that give me some energy, and they work really well on sort of those pesky uneven lies. So that's kind of the big difference in the setup.
And this is just totally off the wall now, but I had another thought about it. So I've seen, we spoke to a guy called EJ Hill, who actually is up in Tennessee. I don't know if maybe you're familiar with him or not. He's a kind of young 20s golf content creator, plays a lot of just kind of 9 holes in 90 seconds type stuff. But I saw the other day that he was advertising this almost like mech suit kind of thing. Like it's like a basically technology assisted movement. You kind of strap it around your waist. Like, I'm curious if you've just ever come across anything like that in the prosthetic space. The idea I think behind this one is just like generally making it easier on your back and your legs to kind of walk 18 and just feel a little lighter at the end of it, I guess, because it kind of helps move your legs. Again, feel free to just say, yeah, Nate, like that's dumb, I've never heard of that. But like that seems like it could have an interesting application, especially to, people missing limbs or what have you.
No, I don't know it. Luckily prosthetics are getting better and better. They're getting lighter. They're getting more, giving us more energy back, so it's less exhausting. Luckily, I play the handicap card when I can, so I hop into a cart and I try to minimize steps as much as possible. So I haven't heard of that, but I'll check it out for sure.
And before I get you out of here, just would love to give you a chance to let the audience know, how can they get involved with the foundation? What are ways to find you and what you're about and what the foundation is about? Ways to see some examples of these kids too that you're helping. Just kind of where's the best place to point people toward? Yeah,
easily on socials. Jordan Thomas Foundation on Instagram, jordanthomasfoundation.org. It really is that thing. We can talk about it in the theoretical, but when people take the opportunity and they see these kids and the real impact that we're having in their lives, it's something that sticks with you and something you want to support and get behind. So come find us on socials. We're going to feature a lot of stuff on Lunch Pail as well, Lunch Pail Golf. So those are the amazing places, and come get involved. Just follow us, check us out. We're doing amazing things all the time, telling a lot of really incredible stories. And it's just something that's really, really special.
Yeah, man. It sure is. Well, Jordan, I really appreciate the time. Thanks for sharing your story and what a powerful one it is. And again, for those listening, absolutely go check him out at PressOnJT on Instagram, but also definitely his foundation, Jordan Thomas Foundation. Check out their website. And again, thanks so much, Jordan.
Such a pleasure. Thank you. I really appreciate it, Nate.